the untidy garage and a bored teen. Lily stared at the rain-streaked window, the reflection of her own listless face staring back. Summer stretched ahead like an empty road, each day blurring into the next. Her friends were all away on vacation, and her summer reading list mocked her from the corner of her desk, untouched. Even the buzzing cicadas outside seemed to mock her inactivity. A flicker of movement next door caught her eye. Jack Mallory, her reclusive neighbor, was wrestling with his garage door. It shuddered and groaned, refusing to cooperate. Jack, a man perpetually cloaked in the aura of solitude, strained, his face reddening with effort. The garage, Lily knew, was legendary. An abyss of forgotten projects and discarded treasures, rumored to be overflowing with everything from vintage car parts to antique radios. Another lurch, another groan, and the door finally screeched open a few feet, revealing a chaotic jumble of stuff. Cardboard boxes teetered precariously, lawn equipment lay half-buried under tarps, and the air seemed thick with dust motes dancing in the sliver of sunlight. Jack shoved at a rogue bicycle tire blocking his way, muttering something Lily couldn't quite hear. An idea, impulsive and a little reckless, sparked in Lily's mind. Anything was better than the soul-crushing boredom she was currently experiencing. She could offer to help. It would be an adventure. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the doorknob. Jack was known for his gruffness, his preference for solitude. What if he told her to mind her own business? But the image of him wrestling with the recalcitrant garage door pushed her forward. Taking a deep breath, Lily crossed the small patch of lawn separating their houses and approached the open garage. The scent of oil, rust, and damp wood hung heavy in the air. Jack was now attempting to maneuver a rusted lawnmower around a stack of paint cans. "Hey, Mr. Mallory," Lily called out, her voice feeling oddly loud in the quiet afternoon. Jack jumped, startled, and turned, his brow furrowed. "Lily, right. From next door." He wiped a smudge of grease from his cheek, leaving a dark streak. "Yeah," she said, feeling a blush creep up her neck. "I saw you struggling with the garage. I was wondering if you needed any help." She held her breath, bracing herself for rejection. Jack stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the distant drone of a lawnmower further down the street. Lily began to regret her impulsive offer. Maybe boredom wasn't so bad after all. Then, a flicker of something surprise. Curiosity softened his features. He sighed, a sound like air escaping a punctured tire. "Well," he said, his voice raspy, "I can't say no to an extra pair of hands. Truth be told, this has been needing done for far too long." He gestured vaguely at the overflowing garage. "Just be warned, it's a disaster in there." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "And I'm not sure where to start. Dust, dreams, and model airplanes." Jack shifted his weight, the gravel crunching under his worn boots. He scrubbed a hand over his bristly chin, the gesture more about stalling than cleaning. "I appreciate the offer, Lily, I really do. But it's a mess. A real mess. You wouldn't want to get involved." Lily tilted her head, her dark braid swaying. "Mess doesn't scare me, Jack. Besides," she added with a playful nudge of his arm, "consider it neighborly goodwill. And maybe, just maybe, I'm a little curious." He sighed, the fight draining out of him. All right. But don't say I didn't warn you." He finally pushed the garage door fully open, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. Lily stepped inside, and her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just a mess, it was a time capsule of forgotten things. Tools lay scattered across a workbench buried under newspapers and dusty cans. Stacks of cardboard boxes teetered precariously, threatening to topple. The air hung thick with the scent of motor oil, sawdust, and something indefinably old. "Wow," she managed, her eyes wide. "You weren't kidding." Jack rubbed the back of his neck. "Told you. It's been a while since I've been in here," Lily took a tentative step further, carefully navigating a path through the clutter. She noticed a faded photograph peeking out from under a pile of fabric, a young boy, grinning mischievously, holding a small wooden airplane. "Is that you?" she asked, gently pulling the photo free. Jack's face softened as he looked at the picture. "Yeah," he said, a hint of wistfulness in his voice. "That was a lifetime ago." She glanced around the garage, her gaze landing on a shelf obscured by cobwebs. "What's up there?" Jack hesitated. "Just some old things. Probably more junk." Lily, unable to resist her curiosity, grabbed a rickety stepladder from a corner. She climbed carefully, the wood creaking under her weight. As she reached the shelf, she brushed away the thick layer of dust, revealing a row of meticulously crafted model airplanes. Biplanes with delicate wings, sleek monoplanes with gleaming propellers, each one a miniature work of art. "Jack," she breathed, her voice filled with wonder. "These are incredible." He shuffled his feet, a blush creeping up his neck. "I used to build them. Years ago. Before." He trailed off, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. Lily climbed down, holding one of the planes carefully in her hands. The afternoon sun slanted into the garage, painting dust motes gold in the air. Lily sorted screwdrivers, separating Phillips heads from flatheads, while Jack wrestled with a rusted set of wrenches. The air hung thick with the scent of oil and decaying cardboard. "Think this one's salvageable?" Jack grunted, holding up a wrench pitted with rust. Lily peered at it. "Maybe with some steel wool and a lot of elbow grease. Or you could use it as a decorative doorstop. Adds character, you know." He chuckled, a low rumble that vibrated in the confined space. "Character is one word for it. I've got enough character in here to fill a museum." They continued working in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds the clink of metal, and the occasional sigh from Jack as he strained against a stubborn bolt. Lily found herself stealing glances at him, noticing the way the afternoon light caught the silver strands in his hair, the way his brow furrowed in concentration. "Need a hand with that?" she offered, gesturing towards the bolt. "I'm good," he said, but his voice sounded strained. "Just recalcitrant." Lily stifled a laugh. "Recalcitrant? Big word for a Tuesday. I have my moments." He finally managed to loosen the bolt with a loud crack. "There. Victory is mine." They both reached for a screwdriver at the same time. Their hands brushed. A jolt, unexpected and sharp, shot up Lily's arm. It wasn't painful, but it was there. She snatched her hand back as if burned, her cheeks flushing. The screwdriver clattered to the concrete floor. Jack froze, his eyes widening slightly. He didn't retrieve the tool. He just looked at her. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Lily could feel the heat rising in her face, turning her skin pink. "Sorry," she mumbled, finally breaking the silence. "Clumsy." Jack cleared his throat, a nervous sound. He bent down and picked up the screwdriver, his fingers lingering on it for a moment before handing it to her. "No problem. Happens all the time." But his voice was higher than usual, and his eyes darted away from hers. He let out a short, almost strangled laugh. It sounded off. Lily took the screwdriver, her fingers tingling where their hands had touched. She avoided his gaze, focusing intently on sorting the remaining tools, her mind racing. Had he felt it too? That little spark. The air in the garage suddenly felt much warmer. She busied herself with organizing the wrenches, trying to ignore the frantic beat of her heart. This was just her neighbor. Helping him clean his garage. Nothing more. Right? The old radio and shared projects. The garage was a labyrinth of forgotten treasures and discarded memories. Lily coughed, waving away a cloud of dust motes dancing in the single shaft of sunlight slicing through the gloom. "Wow, you weren't kidding about the potential." Jack grunted, shoving aside a stack of yellowed newspapers. "Potential for what?" Landfill material. Lily grinned, undeterred. Potential for awesome. Look at this workbench, it's practically begging for a project. She trailed her fingers across its scarred surface, then gasped, pulling back a tattered tarp. Underneath sat a radio, its wooden casing scratched and faded, its dials tarnished. An old radio. Lily exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. Jack's face softened, a flicker of something akin to sadness passing over his features. He reached out, his hand hovering over the radio without quite touching it. Belonged to Sarah, he said, his voice suddenly raspy. She loved listening to old swing music on it. Used to say it took her back to another time. He paused, then added, almost to himself, haven't touched it since. Lily sensed the shift in the atmosphere, the sudden weight of grief hanging in the air. She stepped back, giving him space. It's beautiful, she said softly. Do you think it still works? Jack shrugged, his gaze still fixed on the radio. Doubt it. Probably full of dust and cobwebs. An idea sparked in Lily's mind. We could fix it, she blurted out, then immediately regretted her impulsiveness, watching Jack's face for any sign of rejection. I mean, if you want to. We could make this garage our project space. Learn how to fix it together. I've always wanted to know how radios work. She rushed on, a little breathless, and think of it, Jack, you could hear Sarah's music again. Jack finally looked at her, his eyes searching hers. There was a long silence, broken only by the creaks and groans of the old building settling around them. Lily held her breath, unsure of his reaction. Shared projects, he finally said, a hint of a smile playing around his lips. You want to share this mess with me? Absolutely, Lily said, her smile widening. Besides, she added with a playful nudge, I think you need the company. And I definitely need to learn how to use all these tools. She gestured around the cluttered garage, the dust motes swirling around them like tiny, hopeful stars. Jack chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. All right, Lily Rodriguez, he said, a new light in his eyes. Let's see if we can bring this old girl back to life. Afternoons in the garage. Afternoons in the garage became their ritual. Sunlight, fractured by dust motes dancing in the air, illuminated the organized chaos slowly taking shape. Lily, perched on an overturned bucket, meticulously stripped wires, her brow furrowed in concentration. Jack, beside her, hummed a tuneless melody as he soldered components onto a circuit board, the metallic scent of hot solder filling the air. Think that'll do it? Lily asked, holding up a freshly stripped wire. Jack peered at it, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Perfect. You've got the touch, Lily Rodriguez. She blushed, a warmth spreading through her cheeks that had nothing to do with the soldering iron. Just following instructions. Days bled into weeks. The radio, a hulking metal beast, gradually transformed under their combined efforts. Lily learned to identify resistors and capacitors, to distinguish between AM and FM signals. Jack, in turn, learned about Lily's dreams of traveling the world, her passion for photography, and her secret fondness for old black and white movies. Laughter echoed from the garage, mixing with the crackle of the radio as it occasionally sputtered to life, then died again. One afternoon, after a particularly frustrating setback, Lily threw her hands up in mock exasperation. This thing hates us. Jack chuckled, a deep rumble in his chest. Nah, it's just testing our resolve. Besides, he nudged her playfully with his elbow, misery loves company. Lily bumped him back, grinning. The air, thick with the scent of oil and ozone, crackled with a different kind of energy, an unspoken understanding that settled between them. Meanwhile, across the street, Mrs. Davis, her face framed by lace curtains, observed their interactions with narrowed eyes. A teacup trembled in her hand, the clinking a counterpoint to the youthful laughter drifting from the Mallory garage. She disapproved. A woman Lily's age, spending so much time with a man like Jack, sequestered away in that dusty old garage, it simply wasn't proper. She'd seen the way Lily looked at him, a shy, almost hesitant admiration. And she'd witnessed Jack's rare smiles, smiles she hadn't seen on his face in years, directed solely at the girl. It was a situation that needed addressing, she decided, before things went too far. The radio, she was sure, was just an excuse. Untangling wires tangled feelings. Lily swore under her breath, the frayed end of the wire stubbornly refusing to cooperate. This thing's a mess, Jack. Are you sure this radio even can be fixed? Jack, perched on a rickety stool beside her, chewed on his lip. The garage, usually a dim cave of shadows and forgotten objects, was today awash in the late afternoon sun streaming through the open door, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, and the anxiety etched on his face. It's sentimental. My dad gave it to me. Lily softened, setting down her wire strippers. Okay, sentimental. We'll try our best. She picked up the schematic, a faded and yellowed piece of paper. According to this, the blue wire connects to the capacitor, but it looks like it's completely detached. Let me see. Jack leaned closer, his arm brushing hers. A jolt, unexpected and electric, shot through her. He smelled faintly of sawdust and something indefinably Jack. She sucked in a breath, trying to focus on the diagram. He pointed a calloused finger at the schematic. No, see, the dotted line indicates a ground. It probably connects to the chassis. He reached for the wire, his fingers hovering near hers. I think I got it, Lily said quickly, wanting to prove she could handle this, wanting to impress him. She grabbed the wire, simultaneously as he did. Their fingers collided. A spark, not electrical this time, flared between them. Her skin tingled where his touched hers. He didn't pull away. Neither did she. For a long, suspended moment, they remained like that, fingers intertwined amidst the jumble of wires. The air crackled with unspoken words, with a sudden, undeniable awareness of the space between them. The radio, the garage, everything faded into a blurry background. It was just them, connected by a touch, by a shared history of small kindnesses and burgeoning feelings. Slowly, almost reluctantly, Jack lifted his gaze from their hands to her eyes. His eyes, usually hidden behind a wall of reserve, were now open and vulnerable, reflecting the same surprise and something else, something deeper that made her heart skip a beat. Lily met his gaze, her own breath caught in her throat. She saw curiosity, a hint of fear, and a definite spark of attraction mirrored back at her. The world seemed to shrink, the only reality the intensity of his stare. The persistent hum of the transformer down the street, usually unnoticed, suddenly became deafening, breaking the spell. Jack cleared his throat and finally, gently, withdrew his hand. Right, he said, his voice slightly raspy. The chassis. Let's try that. He busied himself with the soldering iron, his movements a little jerky, a little too deliberate. Lily swallowed, trying to regain her composure. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the wire strippers again. The simple act of stripping a wire had never felt so fraught with meaning. The air in the garage, thick with dust and unspoken desires, felt charged, electric. The radio, forgotten for the moment, sat between them, a silent witness to the tangled wires and the even more tangled feelings that had just sprung to life. Stormy weather, heartfelt words. The first fat raindrops splattered against the corrugated metal roof of the garage, a staccato rhythm that quickly escalated into a drumming roar. Lily jumped, startled, nearly dropping the wire strippers. Jack, wrestling with a stubborn shelf overloaded with rusty paint cans, cursed under his breath. Think we should call it? Lily shouted over the din, already gathering the tools she'd been using. Almost got it. Jack grunted, straining against the shelf. Suddenly, a gust of wind, fierce and unexpected, ripped through the open doorway. The old garage door, precariously balanced on its tracks, shuddered and blew inward with a resounding crash, narrowly missing Jack. Lily gasped, her heart leaping into her throat. Jack, are you all right? He pushed himself up, dusting off his jeans. Fine. Just peachy, he said with a wry smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Rain lashed into the garage, plastering his hair to his forehead, and turning the concrete floor slick. The shelf, finally freed, teetered before collapsing in a heap of metal and spilled paint. Lily waded through the downpour to help him up. Their hands met, sending a familiar jolt through her. This time, he didn't let go. "Come on," he said, his voice tight. "Let's get out of this mess." He led her further into the garage, away from the open doorway and the deluge. They huddled near a workbench, the air thick with the smell of damp metal and ozone. Suddenly, amidst the storm's fury, a faint crackle emerged from a dusty old radio sitting on the workbench. Jack fumbled with the dial, and static gave way to music. A slow, melancholic melody filled the space. Lily recognized the song instantly. It was their song. The song Jack had told her he and his late wife, Sarah, had danced to at their wedding. A song he hadn't played since Sarah had passed. Jack's face, illuminated by the flickering bulb overhead, was etched with a pain she hadn't seen before. He stared at the radio, transfixed. The rain continued to batter the garage, but inside, the world seemed to shrink, focusing only on the music and the raw emotion radiating from Jack. He cleared his throat, his voice rough. "Sarah, she loved this song. We heard it on our first date." He paused, swallowed hard. "It reminds me of everything." Lily squeezed his hand, offering silent comfort. She knew this was difficult for him. He looked at her then, his eyes filled with a vulnerability that made her breath catch in her throat. "It's been a long time, Lily. A long, lonely time." He took a deep breath. "I didn't think I could feel this way again. But you've brought something back to life in me. Something I thought was gone forever." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken emotions. The song ended, fading into static. The storm raged on outside, but inside the cluttered garage, amidst the wreckage and the rain, a fragile hope began to bloom. "Age is just a number." Lily worried the bare wire, its bright copper catching the light from the lone bulb illuminating Jack's cluttered garage. "Jack," she ventured, her voice a fragile thread against the thrum of the relic refrigerator he battled back to life. "Something's weighing on me, and it's not easy to say." He ceased his tinkering, concern etching lines on his forehead. A smudge of grime decorated his cheek. With a soft clink, he laid down the screwdriver. "Tell me, Lily. Anything." She inhaled deeply, the mingled scents of aged motor oil and metal filings filling her. I cherish our time together. I do. You're kind, brilliant, and you make me smile. But..." Her voice drifted off, her gaze fixed on the chaotic arrangement of tools adorning the workbench. "But," he prompted, his tone gentle. "But... I'm only 32, Jack. And you have some years on me." Finally, she met his gaze, her expression a silent plea. "I can't shake the feeling that this might be a mistake. That I'm being reckless." The garage seemed to hold its breath. Jack's eyes searched hers, a complex emotion she couldn't quite name dancing within them. He remained silent, the pause heavy with unspoken considerations. At last, he closed the space between them. An almost electric tension filled the air. He reached out, his weathered hand gently framing her face. "Lily," he murmured, his voice a comforting rumble, "age is just a construct. A way to measure time's passage, not the heart's capacity." Her pulse quickened. She longed to believe him, to silence her anxieties, and embrace the burgeoning connection between them. Yet, the difference in their ages felt like an insurmountable chasm. "What if it's not enough to bridge the gap?" she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. "What if it's too wide?" His thumb traced a light path across her cheekbone. "Then we'll navigate it together. But we won't let fear write our story. We won't deny ourselves a chance at something authentic, something precious, because of a number etched on a calendar." He lowered his hand, instead taking hers. His fingers intertwined with hers, a warm, reassuring anchor. The simple gesture resonated with silent promise, a pact to explore the uncharted territory that lay before them. Behind them, the refrigerator coughed, sputtered, then with a final metallic groan, sprang back to life. The sudden eruption of sound jolted them, but neither relinquished their hold. In the stark glare of the overhead bulb, Lily glimpsed only unwavering honesty in Jack's eyes, and for the first time, allowed herself the luxury of hope. Beyond the garage. The air held a September chill, a stark contrast to the humid August days Lily had spent in Jack's garage. Now the garage door was closed, a promise of more tinkering to come. But today, Jack had suggested a walk. Just to clear the head, he'd mumbled, avoiding her gaze. They walked along the winding lane, fallen leaves crunching underfoot. The air smelled of damp earth and wood smoke. Lily noticed Jack seemed less hunched than usual, his shoulders straighter. So she began, kicking a pebble, "What kind of radio are we thinking about next?" Jack actually chuckled, a low, rumbling sound she was quickly growing fond of. "One that doesn't require quite so much coaxing," he replied. "I've got a shortwave kit I've been meaning to build for years. Maybe we could tackle that." They fell into an easy rhythm, sharing stories. Lily talked about her dreams of opening her own electronics repair shop, the frustration of dealing with outdated textbooks in school. Jack spoke hesitantly about his love for amateur radio, the thrill of making contact with someone on the other side of the world. He even told her about his late wife, Sarah, his voice softening with a tenderness that tugged at Lily's heart. As they rounded the corner onto Maple Street, Mrs. Davis was watering her petunias, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. She straightened up, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. "Well, look who it is," she chirped, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. "Enjoying a little stroll, are we? Such a lovely couple." Jack stiffened, his face flushing crimson. Lily squeezed his hand reassuringly. "Just enjoying the weather, Mrs. Davis," she said, her tone polite but firm. "Jack was showing me some interesting spots." Mrs. Davis's eyes narrowed. "Interesting spots, indeed. Well, you two have fun. Just be careful out there. Some folks might not understand such unconventional friendships." She gave a significant cough and turned back to her petunias, muttering under her breath about young people these days and respectable behavior. Jack pulled Lily onward, his jaw tight. "Ignore her," he said, his voice rough. "She's just Eleanor." Back in the garage, the tension hung heavy in the air. Jack fiddled nervously with a soldering iron. Lily picked up a stray resistor. "Hey," she said softly, "screw Eleanor. She doesn't know anything about us." Jack looked up, his eyes meeting hers. A slow smile spread across his face. "You're right," he said. "She doesn't." They turned back to the radio, Lily stripping wires, Jack explaining the intricacies of the circuit board. Laughter filled the space again, the hum of the soldering iron a comforting background noise. As Lily handed Jack a capacitor, their fingers brushed. This time, they lingered a moment longer, their eyes locked. The garage might be Jack's sanctuary, but Lily was beginning to realize it was becoming hers too.